I'm a single parent. I've been raising my 2 kids alone for a long time, and I was alone for 12 years on my own, trying to figure out exactly what my life was going to be like, because I never felt like being single was who I was. I have always desired to have a partner to share my life with. And it was kind of funny because about 10 years earlier, I'd asked a friend of mine who'd recently found the one and was getting married, and he was all excited. Like, how do you know when you've met the right person? I said, I've been through so many unhealthy relationships. I grew up in a dysfunctional home. I didn't have the role model in terms of a good, solid foundation. So how do you know? And he said, what you need to do is you need to sit down and think about who you are, what's important to you, and what characteristics the person that's your ideal mate would have. And so I wrote a list, after spending some time with it, and I had about 10 different things on it that were really important to me in terms of who my mate would be, what kind of life we would build together. And the neat thing about that list was that it meant that as I met people over the intervening years, I could quickly tell whether or not that was going to be a good fit for me. And it saved me from a lot of heartache and pain. There were relationships I could have gotten into that would never have worked out right. What it meant, though, too, was that when the right person did come into my life, I was very quickly able to recognize him. And that happened in July of 2011, when Frank came into my life. And after 3 weeks, we both knew that we were right for one another. He didn't have a list per se, but he knew what he was looking for in somebody. And in my instance, whereas before people had met 3 or 4 things on my list of 10, within 3 weeks, Frank had met all 10. We went through this wonderful time together, and then he unexpectedly died. And I was crushed. I truly was. And I kind of closed down from life, from business, from everything that I had been doing for a couple of months. It was really, really hard to pick myself back up. I've never experienced pain like that before in my life. And I really didn't want to pick myself back up. But I reached a point where I had to. I had kids to worry about. I had a home to keep. I had all these different obligations that I needed to step up for. And so I gave myself, this had happened at the end of October, I gave myself until January 1st, not for a New Year's resolution or anything else, but because I knew that was a good time for a new start. And it gave me time to still be in my pain and to be authentic to what I was going through without trying to bury it or hide it. But in giving myself that deadline, it gave me the opportunity as well to say, all right, that's the day that I'm picking myself back up, and I'm figuring out how I can move forward. And not only am I figuring out how I can move forward, but what changes and what lessons has this experience taught me that can make a difference. Because at the end of my days, one of the things that's very important to me is to know what kind of legacy I've left. Have I left something worth making a difference in somebody's life with? And so that's very much my story, is the story of Frank and I and what I've learned in the intervening time. And all of it comes back to the fact that when we wall ourselves off because we're not willing to be who we truly are, or because we're trying to keep out hurt and pain, we put ourselves in a situation where not only are we keeping things out, but we're holding ourselves in. And we end up incapable of experiencing joy at the same time as we're blocking ourselves from feeling pain. So if you want a more joy-filled life, if you want a life that's of fuller relationships, of more deeper connections with individuals, those walls have to come down.